The following is a summary of the Sicha of Shabbos Parshas Vayeitzei Tov Shin Nun Beis. In relation to the Mitzvah Rebbe, whose birthday was Tes Kislev, the 9th of Kislev, in the year Tov Kuf Lamed Daled, and who passed away on Tes Kislev Tov Kuf Pei Ches, we find a chidush, a novelty, that his birthday and the date of his passing is in the very same day, Tes Kislev. He was born and passed away on the same date. There's another novelty, and that is that the day after his passing is his day of redemption, the Yom and Chag HaGeula in the year Tov Kuf Pei Zayin. In fact, the year that he passed away on Tes Kislev. The Hasidim were going to celebrate Yud Kislev, which was going to be the first anniversary of the Chag HaGeula, the redemption of the Mitzvah Rebbe, and it wasn't celebrated so greatly then because he passed away, but in subsequent years it was tremendously celebrated. Now we know that the festivals that occur during the year have a connection with the Parshas HaShavua. And therefore, there's a connection between the Parsha of Vayeitzei and the Parsha of Vayishlach, which we read by Mincha, lessons which we can learn, especially here in relation to the Geula of the Mitzvah Rebbe. And especially as mentioned in previous Farbrengens, we've already finished all that we need to do, and all that is necessary now is to receive Mashiach. The chidush, the novelty, that the birthday and the day of passing is on the same day, Chazal bring that in relation to Moshe Rabbeinu. He was 120 years old, and he passed away on the date that he was born. The Gemara says, Ben Mea V'Esrim Shana Anochi Hayoim, I am 120 years old today. Ma Talmud Loima Hayoim, what can we learn from the day Hayoim? Hayoim Malu Yomai Ushnoisai. Today, my days and my years are full. This teaches us Shahakadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev Umemale Shneisem Shel Tzadikim Miyoim Leyoim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits and fills the years of tzaddikim from day to day, umechodesh lechodesh, and from month to month. Shenemar, as it says, es mispar yamecha amale, the days of your life I will fill. Bepashtos, simply the idea is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu fills the days of tzaddikim, that they should all be from day to day. In other words, that they are born and pass away on the same date. However, this itself we need to understand. What is the great advantage of such an occurrence? Because l'chayra, the shleimus, the perfection of a tzaddik, is not connected with gashmius, with the physical world, but is connected with ruchnius, which ruchnius spirituality is not necessarily connected with physical days. We know that the life of a tzaddik is not physical life, but spiritual life. The life of a tzaddik is his faith, his yiras Hashem, his fear of Hashem, and avas Hashem, his love of Hashem. And therefore, it's possible for the life of a tzaddik to be full, even if his days are not literally from day to day, meaning being born and passing away on the same day. In fact, the vast majority of tzaddikim did not pass away on the same date that they were born. However, what is clear is that the complete avodah of a tzaddik, in an instance where the shleimus beruchnius, the completion in a spiritual sense, reflects in the physical, that brings out a new level of completion. As Chazal say, Yodea Hashem Yemei Tamimim, Hashem knows the days of those who are complete. Kashem Shehem Tamimim, Kach Shenoisam Tamimim. Just like they are complete, so too are their years complete. And the reason why the tachlis of the avodah of the tzaddik is that the tzaddik should be mevarer, should refine his physical body and the world around him. And the tachlis is that there shouldn't be any divide between the spiritual and the physical. And the main thing is that the physical should be a vessel and a conduit and a garment through which the spiritual should shine. So, although the life of a tzaddik, as we have mentioned, is a spiritual life, however, the complete avodah of a tzaddik is when the ruchnius of the tzaddik shines through on a physical level. So much so that we see that the physical life of the tzaddik is a simple extension of their spiritual life. And when we see that expressed literally in the physical, as their days being full from day to day, being born and passed away on the same date, that brings an additional elevation even in their spiritual level, as we will explain. And that's the reason why Hashem sits and fills the days of tzaddikim from day to day, because the parameters of this world are time and space. The whole year is divided into months and days, and since by the tzaddik the garment of each day was complete, therefore by that tzaddik every single day, month, year was so complete that it shows even in the physical in his being born and passing away on the same date. So, in truth, since HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits and fills the days of tzaddikim from day to day, we must say that this completion is in fact by every single tzaddik, even if the date of their passing was not on the date of their birth. However, we do see, when we actually see that it is like that the date of the passing is on the date of the birth, that shleimus, that perfection is brought out even in the physical. We see that actually by the Avos. They were born in Nisan and passed away in the month of Nisan. We see it by Moshe Rabbeinu. He was born on Zayin Adar, the 7th of Adar, and he passed away on the 7th of Adar. And similarly, we find by the Mittler Rebbe, who was the Moshe in his generation, and in fact there's a connection between the Mittler Rebbe and Moshe because on Sukkot they are the same Ushpizan. He was born and passed away on the same date. We'll understand this better by inspecting the Parsha, as we mentioned previously, the Parshas of Vayeitzei and the Parsha of Vayishlach. The principal story of Yaakov Avinu is in Parshas Vayeitzei, the tremendous descent from Be'er Sheva going to Haran. And it was specifically there that he raised all the Shevatim, all the tribes. And even though Hashem told him, Shuv el Eretz Aveisecha u'Lameirartecha, after all he'd gone through in the house of Lavan, Hashem told him to return to Eretz Yisrael, his Avodah wasn't yet finished, because we have the story of his meeting Esav in Parshas Vayishlach, until Vayeshev, until he came Be'eretz Mugurei Aviv. Now, seemingly, the principal story of Yaakov should really be about his dwelling in Eretz Yisrael. And it should only be really bekitzer, with brevity, about Lavan and Esav. Why is it that a huge part of the story is about his dwelling with Lavan and then with Esav? The answer is Maaseh Ovesim Labanim. The deeds of the patriarchs is assigned to the children, because the story of Yaakov teaches us how we are to engage in Avodah in the world. And what is the Seder, the order of Avodah? First, Vayeitzei Yaakov. First, there's an exit of the neshama. A neshama tahira, a pure neshama, goes out of Be'er Sheva, which in Chassidus is explained is the Sephira of Bina. That's the Be'er, the source of the 7 Midos of Atzilus, and that goes down into Malchus, which is called Charana, and thereafter into the worlds of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, until it comes to this world, which is full of Klippas and Sitra Achra. The point of coming to this world is that the soul should prevail over all the Helamas and Hesterim, the concealments of the material world, and there specifically one should build a house in Israel, mitosei shlema, with his bed complete, meaning with all his children tzaddikim. And this is through Torah and mitzvahs, which they reveal the light of the soul, and with that empowerment, one can transform the material nature of the world and make it a conduit and a vessel to the spiritual, and eventually to fuse both of them. That happens through Vayelech Charana, that through the going down of the soul, and in Charan Atzma, in Charan itself, to the deepest part of Charan, then one has the greatest elevation. In fact, the word Charana, it doesn't say Vayelech le Charan, he went to Charan. It says Charana with a hey at the end. The hey is indicative of this world, because this world was created with the letter hey. And through that, one reveals Hashem in the Charan. In other words, within the Charan, one recognizes the Koyach HaPoel B'Nifol, the power of Hashem which has created the world. On the way, Vayifga B'Mokam Vayolem Sham. He stops in the place of the Beis HaMikdash, and he sleeps there. Kivo HaShemesh, the sun had set. Vayikach me'avne hamokim, he takes from the stones of the place, vayosem rashesab, and he puts them round his head, vayishka b'mokamahu, and he sleeps in that place. In the spiritual dimension, that means that as soon as the soul comes down to this world, a world of concealment, kivor hashemesh, because the sun of Shemesh Mogen Hashem Elokim has set, and because of that, vayishkav, a person lies down in a state where their head and feet are on the same level. That's indicative of the night and darkness of Golus, where the head and the foot are on the same level, especially in Ikvasa de Mashiach, in the footsteps of Mashiach, because at that time the Koichas Hagluyim, the revealed powers of the soul, become concealed. The world is full of klippas and sitra achra, which are literally against Hashem, and that's why Yaakov takes from the stones of the place, because he's afraid of the wild animals. But specifically through this descent, does he bring Kedusha down? And what happens is that shechiva, that lying down with the head and the feet on the same level, actually brings out an advantage, that the guf, the body, and the soul become united, and they actually cause an elevation in the soul. We'll understand this point by quoting the question of the commentaries: why specifically did Yaakov sleep in that place? In fact, in the house of Shem Ve'eva, for 14 years he didn't sleep. In the house of Lavan, he didn't sleep for 20 years. Why specifically did he go to sleep in the place of the Beis HaMikdash? We can understand, therefore, that the sleeping there was a spiritual elevation, and it happened specifically because that was the place of the Beis HaMikdash. The explanation: what is the difference between standing and lying down? When a person is standing, there's clearly recognized the difference between the head, the upper part, and the feet, the lower part. Whereas when a person is sleeping, their head and their feet are all on one plane. In Ruchnius, the upper part of the person is their spiritual dimension. The lower part of the person is their physical dimension. When a person is lying down, they're both on the same place. In their root and in Pnimius, that is a tremendous high level when Ruchnius and Gashmius are on the same plane. In other words, in a revealed way, the Ruchnius is higher than the Gashmius, the spirit is higher than the material. However, when they are lying down, from one perspective, there's an advantage in that, because the spiritual, the Ruchnius and the Gashmius become united through a revelation of Atzmos, of the essence which is higher than both the spiritual and the material. Like, as is said, the pshitos, the simplicity of a simple Jew, takes the simplicity of Atzmos. And once a person gets up from such a sleep, meaning that one is empowered by the power of Atzmos, then one can take an Elyon and a Tachton, the upper and the lower, and fuse them both. They're only called upper and lower in configuration, but in Muhus, in essence, they are the same. So, in going out to Charan are achieved two things. In addition to the ability to overcome the material world and the concealment of the world, and making it a vessel to Ruchnius, to spirituality, there's an additional achievement in that there is an equanimity between the Gashmius and the Ruchnius through a revelation of Atzmos which fuses the two. And that's why he went to sleep specifically in the place of the Beis HaMikdash. Because the Beis HaMikdash is the place of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's the place where there's the Gilui of Elikus, there's the greatest revelation of godliness. And that's the place where there is the revelation of Atzmos. And that's the place where there is the ladder, which joins earth and heaven. And automatically you're going to have angels going up and down there. That's why Yaakov, when he awoke, he said, that Hashem is in this place and I didn't know. In other words, what was revealed there was the level of Atzmos, which is higher than knowing, because knowing has a relevance to the head. And that is recognizable when a person is standing, whereas when upper and lower are equal because of the revelation of Atzmos, that is a level which is Anochi lo yodati, higher than knowing. And then Yaakov said, Vayira vayomer, and he said, Manoira hamokem hazeh, ein zeh kiem beis Elokim. This is a place which is a house to Elokim, meaning this is a place where the very essence of Hashem dwells, and there's a gilui, a revelation of Atzmos here. And all that brought him to the neder of V'chol asher titzen li, that everything which you will give me, aser asrenu loch, I will give Maisa from, meaning everything which you will give me, the Gashmius and the Ruchnius, is from the level of the Sphira of Keser, and it's loch, it's for you, it's for Atzmos. We now understand why Vayikach me'avnei hamokim, that he takes from the stones of the place, and he places it around his head. Rashi said, he placed it around his head in order to guard him from wild animals. The stones started fighting with each other. Ola yaniach tzadik es roshoi, Hashem made them into one stone. So the question which all the Mefarshim ask is, what was the point of putting the stones around his head if the wild animals could attack the body? So the Mefarshim say that the truth is he put them around his whole body. but he just made a marzif for his head. However, the pasuk itself emphasizes merashoisav, that he put the stones around his head. And of course, what was the point of doing that? Because the wild animals could attack. So let's explain this al derech hachsidus. That which Yaakov put the stones around his head was a spiritual avodah. He was revealing in the physical world with stones, which is very, very strong, the light of the neshama, the light of the soul. And he wanted to bring out the power and the light of the neshama. And when he would do so, then wild animals could not attack him. Now, since the principal dwelling of the nefesh elikis, the godly soul, is in the brain, which is in the head, and from there it diffuses to the limbs of the body, therefore the principal power of the neshama, of the stones, is round his head. And then the stones started fighting and saying that tzaddik should rest his head on me. What did Hashem do? Hashem made one stone. In other words, Hashem fused all the stones together so that the Maila and Mata, that which is above and that which is below, becomes one through a revelation of the essence of Hashem. And since the Gilui Ha'atzmus, the revelation of this essence, comes through the descent below, therefore it becomes revealed in stones, which is the most inanimate thing. They become a bias lalukim, a house to Hashem. So from all the above, it's clear that the empowerment for Yaakov to come to Choron and to transform the concealment of Choron and to fuse upper and lower, soul and body, is through a revelation of Atzmos, of the essence. And since that was achieved through going down to Choron, it's specifically there that he raised the 12 tribes. Mitosoi shlema, Chazal say. His bed was complete. Now, the word mitosoi can also come from the word mata, meaning the tachtoin, the lower part, was complete. Also, it comes from the word mita, a bed, where the head and body is equal. Mitosoi shlema, his bed was complete because there was a revelation of Atzmos, and because of that revelation, he was able to join Gashmis and Ruchnis together. Mas Ovis Simulabonim. The acts of the patriarchs is a simon to the children. We must also fuse the upper and the lower. And as it says about Moshe Rabbeinu, that he had the Mate Elohim in his hand, with which he did the tremendous miracles in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is from the word Meitzer Ugvul, the narrow and limited. Umina Meitzar Korosika, Anani Ba Merchavka. From the narrow straits I called, and Hashem answered me in a broad way. Gilui Merchav Ha'atzmi, a revelation of the true expansiveness of the essence of Hashem, which configures a completion of the refining of the lower parts of the world, so much so that it joins HaKadosh Baruch Hu together with Yidden in a unified way. And since the principal Avodah of Yaakov in Choron in Parshas Vayeitzei was benegeya to himself, and we have therefore the continuation in Parshas Vayishlach, which talks about his effect on the world and his elevation of Esav. It's explained in Chassidus that Yaakov comes from the world of Tikkun and Esav comes from the world of Tohu. Yaakov sent Malachim to Esav because he thought that Esav had already been refined, and therefore it was possible to be a fusion of the tremendous lights of Tohu with the broad kalim of Tikkun. And that would cause a complete refining of the world through the revelation of Atzmutz, which is higher than both of them. But Poel, Esav was not prepared, and this will only happen in the time of the Geula, when Asher Ove El Adoni Seira, in the days of Mashiach. These two parashas, which talk about the refining of the lower parts of the world, express the general avodah in Torah and mitzvahs, to refine and to elevate the gashmias of the world and to make it a vessel to the soul, so much so that gashmias itself reveals the power of Hashem in the world and makes a dira for Hashem. And that will be complete in the time of the Geula, when there will be revealed the glory of Hashem, and the physical flesh will see godliness. Even the stone will speak. The doimim, the inanimate, the vegetable, the animal, and the human will all recognize godliness. So the purpose of Torah mitzvahs is this fusion of physical and spiritual that is strengthened through the revelation of Chassidus, which joins godliness and the world, because through Chassidus that joins that which is hidden in the Yid with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it gives the ability to transform the lowest parts of the world and make it a vessel to godliness, especially Chassidus Chabad, which brings Chassidus into understanding, so much so that the seichel of the animal soul, Charana, and the seichel of Esav understands it. That's the meaning of Yofutza Ma'anesecha Chutza, even the nature of the world becoming a vessel for godliness. And that's why the principal revelation of Chassidus was in the month of Kislev, the third month after Tishrei, which corresponds to the month of Sivan, the third month after Nisan. In this month, we have many Yomim Tovim. Yud Tes Kislev, the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus, Tes Kislev, Yud Kislev, Chanukah. Why? The months of the winter are days of rain. Rain is the avodah of a person from below, whereas the months of the summer correspond to Tal, dew which comes from above. Rain, which is called Geshamim from the word Gashmias, is the idea of a Eid Yalam in Haaretz, a mist going up from the earth, becoming a cloud, and precipitating over the entire face of the earth. That's the whole idea of Chassidus. It takes the seichel of a person, and it takes the world, permeates it with godliness, saturating it with the knowledge of Hashem, Kamayim le'yam mechasim, as waters cover the sea. And this is the idea of Kislev. Kis, case, that which is covered, kisui, is the idea of covering. Leiv, lamed vav, is the same word, same gematria as the word Ela, which means revealed. So in Kislev, that which is hidden becomes revealed. This fusion is seen very much by the Mitzvah Rebbe. The Mitzvah Rebbe took Chassidus, which was revealed by the Alter Rebbe in a way of a capsule form, in a way of a nakuda, and he broadened it. The Alter Rebbe was the sphere of Chachma, the Mitzvah Rebbe, Bina, Rechayvas Hanar. He revealed Chassidus in a very expansive way. Because in order to join the seichel of the human being with the knowledge of Hashem, it needs to be not only in essential form, but in a very expansive way. As the Tzemach Tzedek said about the Mitzvah Rebbe, that if he would cut his finger, blood would not run, but rather Chassidus would run, meaning that even his physical being was that of Chassidus. And that is emphasized in his name, Mittel Rebbe. Mittel Rebbe means the one in between. The Rebbe in between the Alter Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, the one that joins Chachma with Das. That's the level of Bina, the Mitzel Rebbe. So we'll now understand why specifically the Mittel Rebbe, he had a shleimus, he had the completion of being born and passed away on the same day, because his spiritual avodah completely permeated his physical lifetime. And that's why Tes Kislev is a preparation for Yud Kislev, because the avodah of the Mitzel Rebbe being from day to day, his day of passing being on the same day as he was born, that is the biggest preparation for the day of Geula of Yud Kislev, when that's the day of Yafutza Ma'anesecha Chutza, and it's also a great preparation to Yud Tes Kislev, especially when the day of Tes Kislev falls on Shabbos. Because Shabbos is a day when we bring down oineg, supernal delight, in the physical world, in eating and drinking and sleeping, so much so that the additional neshama which we receive on Shabbos has an effect on our animal soul and also on our body and in the world. All the above is for all generations. Certainly in our generation, when we've actually finished all the refining of the world, including the refining of Esau, which is Edom, as we see in Golus Edom, the Edom Golus today, that they are conducting themselves in a way of Malchus Shel Chesed, a kindness, which is also going into the other nations of the world as well. We're holding at a time when the physicality of the world is becoming a vessel to the spiritual, including also the light of Mashiach, which is a revelation of that essence, and through the essence of Mashiach, that's being revealed, that is revealing the essence in every single Yid. The only thing that is left is that every single Yid should open up his eyes as he should, and see that everything is prepared already for the Geula. We have already the late table, the Livyasan, the L'Shay Rabar, the Yain Meshumer. We have already one who stems from the house of Yehuda, who is fit to be Mashiach. In our generation, that is the Rebbe, and 40 years after his Istalkus, we have a heart to understand this. So now we need to just open up the heart to understand. We need to open up our eyes to see, our ears to hear. We need to use our 248 limbs and 365 sinews, in addition to learning Torah mitzvahs in general, to learn Chassidus and to learn Inyani Geula Mashiach, to bring into the physicality of the world the Geula through the Torah of Mashiach, and we'll see that everything is already prepared for this. So, in simple language, since the fusion, which we've spoken about, needs to be done and needs to be accomplished, so therefore, L'chol Hareish, principally on the day of Tes Kislev, we should learn more of his Chassidus. Men, women, and children should learn it, and it should be brought in such a way that the Chassidishkeit should be brought in the physical world, in time and space, that we should feel that light and warmth of Chassidus, making Farbrengens, learning the Torah of the Mitzel Rebbe by the Farbrengens, making good decisions, and making great Farbrengens on Yud Tes Kislev, and all the preparations for Yud Tes Kislev, even in a far-flung corner of the world, so much so that in every single corner of the world it should be completely permeated with the light of Yud Tes Kislev. And that should continue into Chanukah in an ever-increasing manner, especially making Chanukah gatherings and giving Chanukah geld to each one a member of the household, and through giving more and more Chanukah geld, we connect even more with the Rabbeim, which brings even more the heroes of the teachings of the Rabbein to our lives. And this is especially through learning Inyane Geula u'Mashiach. V'yehi ratzon that through all the good decisions, Mashiach should come. He should come riding on a cloud together with all our possessions, together with our shuls, our personal homes, and especially those shuls and homes which are connected with the Mikdash Ma'at, with that of the Rebbe, we should be transported to Eretz HaKodesh and to Yerushalayim and into the Kodesh HaKadoshim where there is the Even HaShasiyah, and all this should happen Tekev Umiyad Mamash.